So, Sergeant Leon has lived and worked in urban communities most of her life. She served as the assistant director of a teen mentoring program, a home detention officer for juvenile court, a public assistance worker, and systems advocate for male victims of domestic violence. She joined Cleveland Police in February 2008 and served under her departure in September 2020. She works now for the Center of Policing Equity, a research and action think tank with offices across the country that promotes police transparency and accountability with research, partnership, and public discourse, which is beautiful. So again, we're giving hand claps to her, but like I was saying, it's a lot going on, and we're here to talk with Sergeant Leon. We're here to speak with her, and we're here to figure out how we can bridge that gap or that power division between officers and the community. Like I said, I feel like I can't talk to police officers right now. I'm nervous about everything, and I don't feel like they have my best interest at heart. And I think that that's important that we talk about that. And so without further ado, I want to introduce Sergeant Leon, so we can go ahead and get this started. I know we have about an hour, so we want to talk, y'all. I'm not seeing enough questions already. Can somebody type hello in the chat or something so we can know that you're here with us?
So Moriah, and thank you for that, and welcome and good morning to everybody. And I feel the same way. I plus one everything Diana said, everything Moriah said. About it being amazing. When I did a PowerPoint about community connections, and we can do that. But Moriah, absolutely, you know, I'm with it. I'm open to us talking about policing and talking about our relationships. As she said, I am not with the Cleveland Division of Police as an officer anymore. I'm with the Center for Policing Equity, but we work with police departments across the nation, which is so needed right now. And we assist them in finding ways to reduce the disparities, racial disparities in their policing activities. So it's a big deal. But this morning, before I came on here, I have a standing 8 a.m. meeting with a group of women every Saturday. And it's because of what you said, the way we're feeling, the things we're going through, we never stop needing each other. And this is about relationship. It's about shoring one another up. And you never stop needing a mentor. And what I miss about being in together physically is that I really feed off of other people. I really, you know, I love the connection. And so when we're in the classroom, you know, it gets real. Sometimes we never get through my PowerPoint because we just start chopping it up and talking about the real, and what it's important to me is that you came here for a reason. You clicked on here for a reason, because there's something you're looking for or you just wanted to hear. And I always want to make sure that we are responsive to the what folks are looking for in the room. So I'm going to rush through this PowerPoint and I'm going to get through it.
Right.
And if you want any of the information that's here, you can always reach out to the panel and to Black Diamonds, and they will get it for you because I've given them my information to give to people when they request it. And then we'll come back. Is that good, Moriah? I'm gonna share my screen and go through this, and then you think about anything you want to ask me. And as I tell people all the time, I'm a big girl now, right? And I always say, you know, we used to go when I was an officer in charge of recruitment for police, fire, and EMS here in Cleveland. We start going into the beauty shops, barber shops, nail salons, and you got to be a big boy and girl to go in there and have those conversations, because our communities bring it, and for good reason. All right.
For good reason.
Yes, ma'am. So, okay, let me share my screen.
So like you said, guys, like we said, I see the chat and the comments going, y'all. Continue dropping any question that you can think of. Like we said, this is a super safe space. Nobody can get into this group. Nobody can really even notice besides us who's commenting in the chat. So be bold with your questions. Whatever you've been sitting on since the beginning of this year that you want to talk to a police officer about, this is your time.
All right, so are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, it looks perfect. Everybody can see it, thumbs up.
Yeah,
it looks
okay. Very good. And you still see me or no? So I'll know.
I see you.
You see me, but do the participants, just so I can be mindful? It's not necessary.
You're a smaller box up above. We see you though.
All right. So heads up, not hands up. NAACP came out with the hashtag this year, we're done dying. Mm-hmm. We're done dying. And so we want our heads up. We want to straighten our crowns. Y'all see that crown on there? And we are diamonds, right? We have our shirts on today. We are black diamonds. And what creates a diamond is that pressure. And 400 years, y'all, 400 years. Yeah. So who am I? Why y'all listening to me? I'm just a little colored girl from Chicago, Illinois. You see, that's me and my brothers years and years ago outside our house. But when we talk about community connections, and I know, for me, I changed schools 13 times before I graduated high school. Okay, so my mom had to move where the jobs were once she and my father divorced, and she had to take care of 4 children and make that work. And so I'm used to being the new girl around. I had to figure it out. I had to figure out how to make connections, how to get my needs met. Sometimes I did that in a constructive way, and sometimes I did it in a destructive way. And we're going to talk about how we can make our connections effective and supportive of us. And so transient nature is in my blood. I fly around all the time. 4 colleges, 3 different states before I graduated my master's in public administration, which I did through the National Urban Fellows. Again, a connection. I was assistant director for Girls Only Incorporated, which was a mentoring program that started out for young women, but the guys were doing like, what about us? So we built and wrote up a program called Sable Sisters and Brothers Learning Experience. And while I was looking for more funding as a nonprofit, I ran across the National Urban Fellows Program, and I went to get my master's degree in public administration. And then through that program, I was assigned to Cleveland. Not from Cleveland, right? I got here, I met my husband, now ex-husband, we had children, and I had no family. My success comes from my connections, making connections with others, becoming open to being mentored, being directed. You learn how to stop being offended by things that people say that help you be better. And you start learning how to trust your gut and figure that out. So what do we mean when we say leverage connections in your community? None of us, everybody has a specialization. I have become known now. If anybody says my name, usually they say police behind it, law enforcement. They know I'm about law enforcement reform. They know that's how I roll. And so because it's just what I do, I've always and support the community. So it's what I do. But I'm not an attorney. I'm not a scientist. If you need those kind of things, you have to find people who specialize in those things. So that's part of getting your connections together, finding out who people are and not being afraid to reach out. Please don't be afraid to reach out because we're not an island. We have to help one another. So that's one of the reasons that leveraging connections in your community is so important. And I love the Ethiopian proverb that when spider webs unite, we can tie up a lion. A lot of what's happening now affects the community we have, right? And a lot of us are scattered. Now, the Black experience in America is many and varied. And what I believe has been difficult for us to concentrate our efforts is because we have so many different experiences. So what my experience is and what I think is important isn't necessarily what someone else thinks is important. But when you make connections of those who have your same interests, that's where the concentrated efforts come from, right? And we'll talk about a very specific one here shortly. So what kind of community do we have now in COVID when we've had to quarantine? When everyone was quarantined, you couldn't look away from what happened with George Floyd. And in our communities, what we say is, we've been telling y'all, we've been saying this, but who believes us? is that we weren't believed. And so only until, so you're locked in your homes and you don't have anything else to do. And if you're fortunate enough to have connectivity, internet, things like that, then you saw that. And the demonstrations haven't stopped since then. The protests haven't stopped since then, because it's no different than in the civil rights movement, when people could actually see with their own eyes the water hoses and the dogs being let loose on our communities. Were they just shocked? It shocks the conscious. Oh my goodness, is this the state of affairs? Yes, and again, believe us when we tell you what our experiences are. And so, although people say, oh, a George Floyd should never happen, it happens too much. And that's our point. This has been happening, right? And now what do we have? More COVID, right? So what kind of community do we have when things like that happen? You start to find out whether or not you're connected, whether or not you have community connections. But we have the social media and video games, right? Us older folks, we start looking at you all young people experience like, y'all need to get off them phones. When I was young, we'd be outside, playing. Y'all don't play no more, right? And so we compare your reality to what our experience was. And so because I've always worked with young folks, and anybody's heard me say it, I sound like a broken record. I've worked with teenagers since I was a teenager. You all are energetic, and young adults. Energetic, you have the energy, right? And we have the experience and the wisdom to give you to help direct that. And so what I know is that's your reality. It's no need for us older people to rail against it. Get off that phone, because the truth is, in a quarantine with COVID, and with things like George Floyd, what were you all able to do in that social media? Y'all were able to connect and network. Hello. This was something, you got to look at the pros and cons of everything. And but there are pros to it too. So thank goodness for that. But we also know that everybody wasn't connected. And so for those who haven't been connected, and then we don't have the neighbors, there are a lot of us. Oh, y'all know your neighbors. You don't have to answer, right? Because you're not in the room. We're not in the room together. But how many know their neighbors, right? How many of us? So that kind of community is broken up. Pros and cons, reality TV. When it first came out, I said, oh, Lord, this is about to be a hot mess. This is a hot mess. But then what I realized is what people could do is stop judging their insides by people's outsides. Those people on reality TV are a hot mess, and they got millions of dollars. They go through the same thing as anybody else, sometimes worse, because you get weird when you get that much money. But, so pros and cons of everything, we have to look at that. Again, we talked about the connectivity. It was heartbreaking, when school had to go virtually, and then you have these community entities that are making sure that our children are forgotten in these homes where they don't have connectivity. For those of our young people for whom going to school was an escape or as a place to eat, or, they don't have that, oh my gosh, when they don't have the connectivity of the internet,
right,
or of one another and neighbors, or they don't have good adults at home, right? And so they're left to deal with that on their own, right? So that's what it taught us, that community connections are so critical. They're critical, and we're here, we're here for you. We all we got, y'all. Y'all see what's going on now? Does not feel like we all we got? And so what happens with this? We realized when our children went virtual, and for those that we're worried about who are not connected, we're like, you know what? We missed out not educating our own community. Not too long ago, there was a narrative in the news that diversity training and race relations are indoctrination. And what I realized is, no, the education system that we've had all these years has been the indoctrination.
Yeah.
And the truth is by now speaking the truth, you're helping people to wake up from that indoctrination. And a lot of people, the powers that be, are afraid of that. right? Because how do we educate? We educate people to work a 9 to 5. We educate people just to be workers, not to be entrepreneurs and all that. Right. We have to teach full, true history. So the truth is, COVID may have, it's affected us disparately, but it reminded us that we all we got, and we do it better than others. And we can stop depending on systems, because the disparities, the institutional racism goes throughout all the systems: education, health, policing. It's through all the systems. So we love us, and we don't have to re-educate people about how to love us. So we have to, remove our dependence on systems that don't value us. We can be treated medically by our own. Hey, we've reached the critical mass, y'all. We got everything we need in our own communities. I love saying it: doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, scientists, right? Carpenters, electricians. We have reached the critical mass. With the food deserts, how many people have gone back to gardening? All right. How many of us went natural in quarantine?
Started figuring out ways to be a hairstylist.
Okay, look. I wasn't going to sit in nobody's chair. It wasn't that serious to me, but I'm old. Right. And then we find out, because as you know better, you do better, what the chemicals do to us anyway, physically. Constantly getting our hair permed and things like that. So I was like, I'm in quarantine. It's been 6 months. How about I just cut that stuff out?
And you look beautiful.
Thank you. I like it more than I thought I would. I was telling Diane last night. And keeping our money locally. Again, being older, be like, y'all need to get off that social media. That's too much. You know what our young people doing on social media? Networking.
Right. Networking.
Selling their goods. Who got this? Who got that? And having that dollar circulate.
Right.
Stay in the community. In our housing. There are, have you all seen all the Black-owned RV parks? Like, I'm on this big tiny home kick right now, y'all. Yeah, check it out. I'm telling you. And it's just about being sustainable for things like this that happen. You're dependent upon, when 40% of the population, I think it's more than that, I forget what, 60% make under $40,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And when quarantine hits, within 2-3 weeks, we have people who are in food lines hours long. That's not a successful democracy. That's not a successful economy, y'all.
Toilet paper. Like, they were just going to the store fighting.
Why? What was that about?
Not sustainable at all.
Right? So I just had to put another diamond in there, because I think they're just so gorgeous, like we are. So what does this live like? What does connections, community connections, live like? You have to clarify what you want. And my young folks understand this. I used to be an admissions advisor at Daytona State College. It's not important that you know exactly what you want to do. Even if your first 2 years, if you go to college, it's just general education. You're still learning yourself. The brain is not fully developed until 25, right? That's the age of reason. So it's okay if you don't know everything that you want to do. You know what brings you, you know what energizes you. So if you're not clear on what you want, you know what I want you to be clear on? What you don't want. What you don't want, and minimize the exposure to that in your life. Okay? And anything that's not what you do want, start saying no to those things more. Effective connections. What are effective connections? That means if you're somebody who like to save your money, but your good girlfriend like to kick it at the mall every day, you're going to need to minimize that connection. Okay? You can love her, you can whatever, but you know that going every day, again, don't judge your insides or you being valuable by other people's outsides. You let them go. The more money you get in your account, the more you don't like it to leave your account, trust me. So when you look at people who you say, how much money do they need? I kind of understand it on a very small scale. I can't relate to the millions, but I can understand how I understand how once you get it, you're protective of it.
Yeah.
Have effective connections. We love our families, right? We are still a community in pain. There were things legislated to kill us. Things have been done purposely to take us out for 400 years. Okay? So there are walking wounded among us, and we gotta love them. We can understand it, but there are times when you have to separate yourself. Understand that when people are ready, they will say, help me. Right? Let them know you're there for them. But you can't get sick enough to make somebody else well. You can't get poor enough to make somebody else rich. You have to feed yourself, and we're here to feed you. We're here to support you. And there are times, and people will come back around if that's their story. We all born by ourselves, and you're gonna leave here by yourself. What we do in between is support and love each other, but sometimes loving somebody else and losing yourself is just not worth it. Make sure your connections are effective. And how will you know? Because they inspire you, because they energize you. I go to lunch or go over to Diane's house for dinner, and man, by the time I leave, I'm full. I'm on here with Moriah. I saw her pop up, her face. She was on our practice session the other day. I'm like, yes, yes, this is what we do. We love each other. And you know, when we talk about the pros and cons, we can talk about the pros and cons of integration.
Amen.
Okay, and how trying to assimilate caused a lot of us to live out self-hate and to reconnect with one another, to understand, go through a COVID, you know, take what's good and understand reconnecting and what that feels like. That's what it lives like. What does it live like when it's effective? It inspires you. It's energizing. It's good stuff, y'all. It's good stuff.
That's good stuff, for real.
Yes. And we can live like this. We were meant to live like this, because you start thinking to yourself, why am I here? Right. And it's just to struggle and be angry and be, why am I here? No. Y'all see my rainbow over Cleveland? Y'all see that picture? That's what I'm talking about. Rainbows and sunshines, baby. We can do that. We have it. We are valued. We deserve it. We deserve it. And so if you don't have connections, if you are here because you are disconnected, you're one of our community members who have aged out of foster care, you didn't make connections during that time, Black Diamonds is a perfect launching pad. It's a perfect safe space for you. It's a perfect place to find mentors. You know, they say skin folk ain't always kinfolk either, but the same thing is true for blood. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's the family you make. You make your family. Okay, so this is getting lengthy, and I want to get to it.
That was a good slide you preached.
It's all experience, and you all will have it. And I always want to tell our young people, trust your gut early on. You have the gift of discernment. When your gut tells you, the more you listen to it, the stronger it gets, and it will not lead you wrong. And you start learning how to trust it more and more. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So resources, because as Ms. Diane said at the beginning of this, you know, we're about mental and physical awareness, employment, you know, connections. And so these are just some local things about entrepreneurship, employment, housing, the youth shelter, the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, Project Lift. I sit on that board. It's a wonderful new program. Check it out. It's for our Black men, teens, and fathers about their behavioral health, because they need, talk about what they deal, what they deal with, and supporting and loving them. And then another mental health resource there. Sometimes the thing we think we need is actually the same thing we must give to someone else. If you feel alone, reach out. If you feel down, you can uplift another person. It helps you feel better. When you want more, give more. And one of the things that you can look at and that has been a success, helped me be successful, is volunteering. I don't know why. I'm very civic minded. I always volunteered somewhere. One of my first volunteer efforts was at the Juvenile Detention Center in Daytona Beach, Florida, right? And from there, I met people. The lady I met there, that's one of my best friends today. She's the one who founded For Girls Only, the mentorship program that ended up serving over 350 young people, and they stay in contact to today. So make those connections. Life is full of choices. If you realize you made a wrong choice, simply make a new one. Make a new one. It's okay. I got my whole life together in COVID at 50. I got my whole life together. I thought I would retire from the Cleveland Division of Police, right? I never thought I'd be the police to begin with. So, y'all can ask me if you're interested. And it's a wonderful career. We have to get to scale in it though. Just like there's a critical mass that we have to have a critical mass in policing with the right people. Just because we color and come from the neighborhood don't mean we the right people for policing, and you know that. And it's not a hard job. Don't let them tell you for it. Policing is not in the top 15 most dangerous professions in the United States. Bet you didn't know that. But you have to peep game. If it was so dangerous and beat you down so badly, why do people bring their daughters and sons and cousins and nephews? And come on, y'all. Come on. So what will you do next? Whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, you like. You see our women at West Point. You see the all-female company fire at the fire department.
That's beautiful.
Yes, ma'am. This is a picture of all the women at the Division of Police some years ago. They got together and you could just be a community advocate for folks in the neighborhood. I met these young women. They were part of a youth program that I did, facilitated on what to do when you engage with the police. And we were shooting a video for our recruitment. And I called the facilitator, the program director. I'm like, can you bring some of our young ladies out? So they got to be in our recruitment video, which finally will be coming out. But I just love them, and it's nothing like it. It's nothing like supporting each other, loving each other, and being there for one another. You are loved. You are loved. You are loved. You are my sister. You are my mentor. You are my mentee. You are my child. When I would be in the zone car and I would see young people, and I remember it broke my heart. And this is just one more reason that I knew reform needed to happen. We're driving down the road and with some brothers on the porch, and I'm like, hey. And they looked at me and they said, oh, you ain't mad? Mad? What you mean? Because that's our perception in the community. We ride behind dark glasses with our black gloves on. And everybody always ready for a fight. You got life. I'm trying to see when I can come by for a plate later. What you mean? Right? It's, oh my God, working in the community, when you love the community loves you back. And I would some days come to work and they'd be like, Officer Leon over on Leonard Craig, they doing such and such. They said swing by, they cooking. Because when they know you care about them, right? Because it ain't always fighting. Less than 10% of what police do is addressing violent crime. So that's a whole nother conversation. I can get into the weeds on that. You are loved and we will get there. We are wounded. It was on purpose. It was intentional to hurt us, to annihilate us. And so when we act in ways that are not loving and supporting of one another, understand that hurt people, right? The oppressed people are the worst oppressors. And that's why the founders of this nation were so oppressive and would cut babies out of indigenous people's stomach and, take their lands, because they came from countries where they were oppressed. Yes. So it's very barbaric, right? Yeah. And it's a human condition. Yeah. Because we get to some Black countries in Africa that they're just as oppressive, just as violent. But that's what happened. This nation was founded by, they cleaned out the prisons in other countries. And so they are very oppressive people. And that's what the violence was visited upon us. So when we see our folks acting like that, understand hurt people. But as the water rises, all boats rise. As we become healthier, we will bring those folks along. And I think that is it on my PowerPoint.
That was a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
That was great. Yes, so yeah, y'all go ahead and keep giving us some questions. I have one question. I think this is more for Miss Diane. Somebody wants to know, how can they become a volunteer member? So if you guys want to be a volunteer member, definitely put that in the chat. We'll link you up to the right people and we'll figure out where to go from there. Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you, Miss Carter. And anybody else on the side, along with Miss Carter, wherever you see her typing at, y'all go ahead and send us some questions. So we're just going to get right into some questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, we're going to start kind of general. I was listening to what you were saying at the beginning of your PowerPoint about the connections that we're making and the connections that we're making with law enforcement. So just a general opening question. How could we, like I said before, how can we minimize that power distance if I'm a high school girl and I either want to go into law enforcement or I just don't feel comfortable with my law enforcement? How can I bridge that gap between me, my school, and my classmates and the officers in Cleveland and specifically?
So two things. So you say if you want to become an officer, yay! And know that you here in Cleveland, you have to be 21. So we graduate high school at 17, 18. So there's a gap there. Go to college, go to college. Or because to be an officer, you need to be a lifelong learner. We've done a disservice in some of the areas and how we vet, which means just the screening process to hire officers. Because right now you just need to have a high school diploma, but that's okay if our other screening tools are appropriate. But yeah, if you want to be an officer, awesome. It's an amazing career. Go to college, become a dispatcher. You might as well get your radio ear early. You can do that. And if you want to, and so you can just know that there's that time frame. If you have officers that are friends, we have the Community Relations Bureau in the Cleveland Division of Police. Reach out to them, do a ride along, go through the Citizens Academy, right? Stay fit. We are looking right now to, and I say we because I'm going to be continuing to work with the Department of Public Safety and the Cleveland Division of Police on hire. So just know that. Yay. So, but mental and physical health have to be at the forefront for us. When we see us officers out there and we are unfit, that increases the likelihood for use of force. And so, we have to apply science to what we do. We have to apply, what's right. We should be healthy and we should be fit. You wouldn't feel the need to always, depending on the situation, go to secondary weapons if you understand that I physically feel comfortable and capable of dealing with a situation without going to any other weapons. Right. Now, your second part of your question was about how do you start feeling comfortable and how do you reach out? Again, we have our Community Relations Bureau, and they help to bring in officers. And what I've learned my years there is that for community, it's important that you connect with officers who patrol your area. So you can start out doing the connection with the Community Relations Bureau, or you can reach out to whatever district you're in, that commander. I would say start with community relations. And then because it's easier, I used to be a systems advocate as well, which just means it's easier for me to navigate an internal system than someone that's outside to navigate it. And let them help you coordinate, talking with officers who work in your community when you're out and about, who works that area, who works that zone, and start making those connections.
For sure. Thank you. We have some questions going on in the chat. I'm going to get into some harder questions now. Or let me read these. Yes, I'm going to save those for a little bit towards the end. So
I'm not gonna I see you.
I'm just going to speak freely, like I'm questioning you. And then I'll channel my sisters in the chat in a minute. So I'm mad, like I said. I'm mad, and I've been mad all summer. Well, I've been mad for a long time at how police officers are treating. But like you said, it's an integrated system that's been around long, long before us. It may be around after us. We just have to do our part to chip away at it from being in place. So the recent events, such as George Floyd, a Tatiana Jefferson, if I stand here and name them all, we'll be on here for an hour. Our good sis, Breonna Taylor. Anybody you could think of, any name you want to put in there. Do you feel like the type of justice our community needed to see happened?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, I don't. And so, yeah, we could go back. So a lot of times when we talk again, I had no intention of becoming a cop.
Right.
I was in grad school. I shadowed Chief Mary Bound's first Black female police chief in Cleveland. And I'd had negative experiences. I told you I'm 50, right? I'm proud of it. I know some people like, don't ask the woman her age. I'm proud of it. So I was in undergrad over 20 years ago. And one of my professors, Dr. Jeff Butler, white attorney, male, who taught minorities in politics, he informed our class then about white supremacists and right-wing groups infiltrating law enforcement and the military. This is the painful part, and this is where your anger is justified. Right. Because our government knew it. The Atlantic just had an article that came out. Well, it came out in 2008. Right? They knew this was happening.
Yeah.
You know, we could try to give them the benefit of the doubt and say you leverage anarchy against, how do you address that? It's a big job. It's a big job, right? And also because you hear people talk about policing evolving out of slave patrols, but what you don't hear about as well is Tammany Hall. Tammany Hall in New York, the corrupt political machine that happened. That's when really policing and firefighting became Irish.
Right.
That was the Irish folks because, hey, we were all, there's a negative title is negative when Irish were the N-word.
Right.
Right. And so they came over from the famine and all that. And the Protestants, they didn't like any of us, right? They wanted all of us to go away. But so the trade-off was y'all control them N-words. So you all can have that. We'll take the politics. We'll take these appointed positions. That kind of thing. That's what there was something that I never heard before, and it made perfect sense to me. That this is their welfare, and fire professions are their welfare, and they feel entitled to it. You know, and so it's not about the profession being a profession to truly serve. And people say we serve, and they get their feelings hurt. I go out and I take a bullet for people I don't even know. Like, don't go there. Don't look for sympathy from you. To be a big boy and a big girl. You took an oath, right? But the reason for coming for everyone is not the same. And when we know it's being purposely infiltrated, then folks come here and do what they came here to do. And so I put it on administration now. If y'all don't clean this up, it's because you have failed to do so, because there are very specific things that you can do to start to minimize the influx of them, and then to retrain the ones that are here and get rid of ones that should be gone. That was a long answer.
That was good. That was good. And I want to talk on the subject of body cameras also while we're here. What are the rules that Cleveland police have to follow regarding body cameras. I know that Miss Linda said the other day that Akron is on the ballot, mandatory,
Yes.
have to release body cam footage. How would you see that happening in Cleveland? Do you think that if my brother or somebody, God forbid, gets killed by the police, I automatically should see that video, or should it still go through the police system, or is that my civil right? Because I want to see what happened. The video of Breonna Taylor, every time I open my social media feed, it's kind of like TV-ish at this point. Like, it's kind of desensitizing us towards things, because I haven't even watched it. I'm scrolling past it because I know the trauma that's in there. But for the people who are watching it, it's just another day being Black in America. Like, it's just, and do you think that releasing body cam footage would further desensitize us, or do you think it will wake up people who need to be woke up to see that this is happening, like, literally every day?
Yep, it does happen every day. I've always been outspoken. When I went into the academy, I was 38. That's why I take issue with people being able to be the police at 21. I think that, again, when we talk about the brain not being fully developed until you're 25, that being the age of reason, you're being given a gun and a badge to go into people's neighborhoods. I mean, everybody shouldn't be able to do that. Everybody shouldn't be able to do that. There's a very small percentage of the population that should really be the police.
Yes.
Okay. But that's a hard political argument to make when people can join the military and go overseas and fight in another country at 18.
Right.
We have to start being reflective, and nothing is black or white. So much. Nothing is. Oh, it is many and varied. Yes. And I say that in response to the concerns that you just raised. And these are the arguments, these are the positions that a lot of officers have that I understand their logic in. You only see a certain angle in a camera. You don't know what goes on outside of it. That's fine. Community is not dumb. I get so frustrated when we act like people in the community can't comprehend things. Don't do that. Don't do that. Right. Don't treat us like we don't understand. We can't figure stuff out. We can figure that out. And don't try to deflect your legitimacy. If you don't have legitimacy, that's your fault. That's not the community's fault. That's because of what you have done. That's because of the history of what people have done in policing. Stop it. So I got an officer that got mad talking about, she talks about her children getting shot by police. They'll get shot in their own neighborhood. God forbid before that happens. No, that's not true, boo-boo, because we just weren't reporting it, right? The fatal force after Mike Brown happened, they start tracking fatal shootings by police. This isn't even knees on necks or dying in custody. Every year, we're killing by gunfire 1,000 people. We breached 1,000 for the first time, and it was being tracked in this way last year. And this year, we're on trajectory to do the same during a pandemic.
People are not even.
That. Stop. If it walk like a duck, quack like a duck, yellow, and it's in water, it's a duck. Stop playing with people, and that's what people get upset about. Stop playing with them. So when you say desensitized, I sat down with Empowered Cleat, their In My Bag series not long ago under program director Angela Thee Bennett, and we had a round table. And that's what one of the young men said to me afterwards. He goes, y'all talk about this and the trauma and stuff. He said, but for us, it's just another day. That's just the way it is. So no, it ain't okay. And it's not the way it should be. And so it is our responsibility. I own it. When I see things wrong in the community, in our society, with police and with my profession, I don't talk about what other people need to be doing. Mm-hmm. I decide what it is that I'm doing that's making a difference or not. I don't point at other people and deflect responsibility. I own that. That it should not be okay for you guys. That's not normal, and it shouldn't be normal. And I'm working hard all the time to change that story, because it's not the way it should be. But y'all are not crazy. You are right. You are seeing what it is, right? And so we're just getting to the point where the community as a whole, again, you couldn't look away. Everybody was quarantined. You saw that, and in sense, it was more trauma to us. It's just more the same to us. But for a whole new crew of people, we're like, what? That's what's happening. Yeah, we've been telling y'all. We wish you would have believed us, but welcome. Welcome.
Welcome to the cookout. This is what it is. Y'all want to come so bad when you want to.
Did that answer some of you? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Let's go over here. So somebody asked, how can senior citizens contribute to their communities in a positive way?
How can senior citizens
contribute in a positive way?
Teach some out, baby. Well, you know what? If any of you all are retired educators, I know of quite a few. Again, community connections. I know of quite a few people who are creating their own, learning establishments for our. So if you're a retired person, if you love to garden, help some of us figure out about gardening. Really, you can assist in any way that helps us remove our dependence on systems that don't value us. They don't love us, and we have to love one another and care for one another. And that's one of the ways. You know what? The first thing I think when you said, how can our senior citizens help? I'm thinking, what do you need? How can we help you?
Right.
You've given your life. You're a senior citizen. So I love that you want to engage. Again, Black Diamonds, we about that life. We do it all. I mean, we will connect you with something. We just need to know what will make you happy, what you get up every morning looking forward to engaging with in our community, and we get you straight hooked up. What can you do? Yeah, that part. And let me say this. I talked about being on a standing meeting with a group of women every Saturday morning. Well, Carolyn Williams, she is the director of the law enforcement at the Federal Reserve Bank here in Cleveland, Black woman. And she was the past president of NOBLE, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. So she and some of her friends started a Seasoned Women Speak series. And you know how Zoom meetings go. And they would come up with a topic, and they would just, the four of them, and she had her niece moderate, a beautiful young Black woman, her niece, and she would moderate it, and it would just be the three of them, and they would go back and forth like popcorn style and take questions. Right. They did about 6 or 7 of them. Every time it was 60, 70 women in that.
Sometimes you can just offer a conversation just so I can know and relate to you, because I know that you've gone through things in your past dealing with racist tendencies as an older woman that I can appreciate. I can relate to the things that I've gone through also. Like, these people have not changed, girl.
Right.
That's what I would be saying to her.
And inform us of what your reality is, so we can stop misdirecting you. Based on what our experience was a long time ago. You'd be like, no, this is what it's like today. This. How do I navigate that? So right. I said that to say, your wisdom is much needed and appreciated. Believe that. And we'll figure out a way to get you hooked up with providing that.
Yes. So in saying that, with that same state, let's go to the polar opposite. As we were talking about the power distance, okay, so now if I'm a young person at home and I'm seeing these things happening on my TV screen and I don't necessarily want to protest, what can I contribute? Because I feel like some of our younger women may be a little shy, or they may just not know the right vessel to take to get into positions of power to change order. So what now can they be doing within their own student groups, within their own teenage groups, in their own neighborhoods? How can they provoke a change? Because I think that most of our participants are rather young, and we just like you know, we come to these panels and we feel liberated and energized, and then our energy only, you know, not only gets to Twitter, because like we said, Twitter is a powerful networking tool, but we talk about it and then it dies out. And we really haven't had nothing else to talk about during quarantine. So we've been talking about it a lot. However, how do we keep this ball going, even as outside is opening back up and all of those other things? How can I, as a young person, contribute and actually make a difference?
So first, let me tell you this. We change the world. You don't change the world. Don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. Your life is to be lived and enjoyed, okay? And the other thing is, you can't, if you're all things, all people, you can't be. I learned when I went away to grad school, I rented the living part of the living room from in the Bronx, from one of my classmates, right? Because living in New York is expensive and we couldn't have an outside job. And I had left a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house my first house that I bought in Daytona Beach, Florida. And I was happier sitting on that futon in that living room.
Right.
Because you don't need a whole lot. You just want to exist and be happy. I say that to say this. But I was sitting in that living room and I looked at my planning book. And what I realized is I was involved with so many things that I wasn't even giving myself time to commute from one thing to another. I didn't even build in commute time. Y'all, find your lane, find what inspires you and do that. First of all, don't think you have to be involved with everything, because you can't and you shouldn't. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. So think about what inspires you. I facilitate the law in your community, how to engage with police during the summer pipeline program. But this year, because we have returning people, it was COVID, so it was less. We went from 60 plus young people to 24.
Right.
They had all heard it before. And I was like, I know what I'm going to do. Find your lane. You know, I love what you young people, you like, do you, boo? Stay in your lane. I love that. Stay in your lane. So first, remember on the slide, clarify what it is you want. Or be clear on what you don't want and be clear on what energizes you.
Right.
Find that, and you will find people who do that. Again, I hope Diane doesn't kill me because I keep saying, reach out to Black Diamonds. We will connect you.
There's so many wonderful women in Black Diamonds.
And there's so many wonderful efforts that people are doing, and they need the help. They need the support.
Yes. I know we're wrapping up. Miss Diane, can I ask you one more question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, one more question.
We only have like 3 minutes, so I'll let you do that.
Okay, so let's just take 1 minute and ask this question. We have been screaming defund the police, right? I even said it a couple times, and I love you. I'm so sorry, Sergeant.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. We brought that on ourselves.
Right. What would that look like for us? Because when you sit and strategically think about it, it's impossible, because we need people who are sincere about protecting us. So how can we change our mindset from we just don't want y'all at all, D-band, we can take care of ourselves, period, in our own communities, to just police reform? What's going on in Cleveland to do that right now?
Well, to talk about what's going on in Cleveland, we have to have a whole nother schedule, which we can do. If you want to get with me and we create something and we bring folks from Zoom and we do this again, let's do that. Real quick with defund the police. See, stop playing with us. Our young people are not dumb. Our communities are not dumb. They're not saying they don't want the police. They're saying reallocate. Remember when I told you earlier that less than 10% of what we do deals with violent crime? How does that equate to us having half the budget of a city? Stop playing with us. Again, when people say that this was their welfare, the police and fire, their welfare, that's the stuff that correlates. Oh, this is just, you feel like this is your entitlement. This is your entitlement. I couldn't believe how officers talked about people on food stamps when I start working in the division of police. I'm like, first of all, a whole lot of them came up on food stamps. Let's be clear. But just because you got this job doesn't mean you're better. But so people are trying to save their livelihood.
Right.
That's all. You're not
Right.
wrong about appropriately moving funding to where it's needed. Y'all not wrong about that. But we do need the police. Let's okay.
Yes, y'all. Thank y'all for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Miss Diana, like, we gotta go because y'all about to go into a whole situation.
You're muted. We can't hear you.
Thank you, Moriah, for moderating, and thank you, Charmin. It was excellent. I want to thank everybody for joining in. You will receive a follow-up email on Monday with the survey, with the resources Charmin provided, and information about Black Diamonds, and a link to our website. Thank you, and enjoy your Saturday. Black Diamonds.
Everybody, thank you.